Hey there. Hello. Good morning. Lily is making another appearance in my live train this morning. She was scratching on the door again because she knows Dad's going off to work this morning. So there's a good likelihood my other dog, Luna, is going to make her appearance. And if so, you may hear some really weird sounds in the background. So, anyways, if you hear weird sounds, it's my goofy dogs. So, hey there. Today I want to talk about what are skills needed to make a big impact for children in play therapy. And this is based on one of the core competencies of play therapy, which is knowledge of childhood related problems and mental health disorders. And to me, I thought it was really important to have this conversation today so that we could talk a little bit about why it's important. And while you're in the process of developing your play therapy skills, this is something I think that's really important for you to think about. So if you're joining me live, I would love to know who's here. Post your name in the comments. Where are you? Where are you from? What population do you work with? Favorite play therapy modality? And I just have to say, so every week I live stream onto LinkedIn, my Facebook group, YouTube, and into Instagram. So Instagram, I have to do that from a separate platform. So I just wanted to say, okay, hi Carmen, I can see you there. So Carmen Pride and I watched her live stream yesterday and it made me really laugh. So this morning it's like probably 10 a.m. your time. Uh, and it's like 7 a.m. my time. So this morning, right before I went live, I was like cracking up and laughing. And so sorry, I see you on there and it's just making me laugh all over again. Okay. Anyways, back on track. So today, I think one of the things to think about is as a play therapist, you're actually a specialist. And what I mean by that is you're a specialist in understanding children, their mental health needs, and how to help them get their mental health needs. So that's what I want to talk about today. And that's going to include some other things like case conceptualization, which was my really nerdy word that I've been studying lately. Like the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about clinical decision making and bias and how bias shows up in the play therapy process, mental health professionals anyway. So if you're interested in any of those topics, you may want to check out some of my previous live the replays. I do have the replays in my Facebook group, which I'll share a little bit more at the end of this um, episode about that and some of the other things that I have going on, like some of the trainings and my Play Therapy Academy, a little bit more about that, because this is actually one of the things that we talk about a lot in my online play therapy supervision consultation program. That's part of the Play Therapy Academy. And so that's today. That's what I wanted to talk about. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I get distracted because I'm watching who shows up on Instagram. And then I get all distracted, like, oh, who's that? Anyways, if you're watching on LinkedIn, in my Facebook group, or YouTube, or Instagram, please feel free to join in the conversation, ask questions, post your comments. I really like to know what others in the play therapy community are doing and some of your thoughts on the topics that I talk about during these live. I personally find them interesting. My hope is that others of you find them interesting as well. To me, I'm kind of super nerdy about play therapy, and I'm always a big proponent of like how can we really become experts in helping children and adolescents heal, because in my mind if we have really strong skills in play therapy, becoming kind of experts in your community, in my mind, that helps more children heal. So that, to me, that's why I find some of these topics important and relevant to the work that we're doing. So, all righty. So one of the first things I kind of mentioned already that I wanted to talk about, that one of the skills needed that I think is really important for play therapists to think about is competency one, regarding knowledge of childhood related disorders and problems and mental health diagnoses disorders. That comes straight from the Association for Play Therapy competencies. As supervisors, one of the things that we are expected to do is to help up and coming, the next generation of play therapists learn to develop these competency skills. I also think it's important for supervisors because it's kind of a good reminder for us that, oh, yeah, these are the things that we want to be sure to pass on to the next generation of play therapists coming along. Plus, it's also kind of a reminder for us, play therapy competencies, that we need to make sure that we're keeping up with. So, knowledge of childhood related disorders and mental health problems is basically the need for play therapists to really understand what are the various issues that children face from a mental health standpoint. So that's going to require an understanding of child development. It's going to like, what do certain symptoms look like? Here in the US, we use the DSM. We're up to 5. I think we're up to 5 TR now. I started out when it was DSM 3 TR. So that was a long time ago. So, understanding what those diagnoses look like in children is a really important skill for us to develop, because if we're not really understanding what these different kinds of issues that children are facing, if we're not able to recognize them, then while we're going through our assessment process, it's possible we can miss them. And if we miss them, then it's possible that we could be targeting the wrong things in the play therapy process. And so as child specialists, I think it's really important for us to be knowledgeable about those things. We do that by going to trainings, getting into consultation, talking with other play therapists. The Association for Play Therapy does a tremendous job of providing trainings. They have really strong expectations. If you are an approved provider for the Association for Play Therapy, it means you have gone through and demonstrated that you're going to meet some pretty high expectations. I'm not going to lie, it was like a 30-page application. Might just because I'm really thorough. And I wanted, they want us to make sure that we're developing trainings that are going to be training up a high quality of the next generation of play therapists. And I think that's really important. I also think it's really awesome. And because that means that the next generation of play therapists are going to be well trained. That's the hope anyway. And so as you're going through trainings, as you're involved in your play therapy consultation groups and individual, and you're going to your trainings and you're involved, one of the things I highly recommend for play therapists is to create a community of other play therapists, because you're sharing that knowledge, you're sharing the resources, and you're asking questions to see what different things look like with your clients. If you're not, if you're in that learning process. I've been doing this for 30 years now, so I've probably seen most of it, to be honest. But there's always things that I don't know, which is what I like about being a therapist. I like learning new things, kind of nerdy that way. So that's the first thing, is really one of the competencies. There's 3 There are 3 competency categories. The first category, competency 1 categories, all have to do with like that first tier level of learning. And then there's competency 2, which kind of plays on top of that. You use that foundation and build upon it to increase your skill. And then competency 3, which is really about taking the tier 1 and tier 2 and really expanding that to be really well-grounded, well-rounded, so to speak. So the second skill that's really important is case conceptualization. So I've talked about case conceptualization, so I'm not going to go into it in too much depth. If you're interested in that topic, which I would highly recommend, you may want to watch some of my previous live stream episodes, and I'll talk more about where you can find those. But essentially, case conceptualization is your ability to gather information about what's going on, what your clients are reporting, what their parents or guardians are reporting, so that you understand what is happening and you understand why it's happening. And if culture is involved, that you're understanding to what extent does culture play a role in the problem, as well as identifying resiliency factors and resiliency things that you want to build upon. So, case conceptualization is taking all of that information that helps you understand and get an accurate diagnosis, because sometimes bias gets in the way, or sometimes we're not really aware of all the different factors and the cultural issues going on. We can misdiagnose, and that will interfere with the purpose of case conceptualization, which is effective treatment formulation. So now that I know what's going on, now that I know why it's going on, what the heck do I do to help my client? That's the treatment planning process. So one of the things that I've done, because I'm super nerdy this way, I've been doing play therapy supervision for probably about 15 years now. And over the course of that 15 years, now that I moved out to the West Coast and I'm doing it a little different than I did on the East Coast, one of the things that I've learned is that some of the foundational, uh, I'll call them mental health skills, and how we need to apply those in play therapy, there's not always a really strong foundation for that. And that's kind of my super nerdy play therapy superpower for training and supervision, is I like a good structure. I like a good foundation. And so what I did is in Play Therapy Academy, but they're available outside of Play Therapy Academy. I created a series of courses that I'm in the process of making. So the course series is called Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Excellence. So there's a variety of courses available in that series. The first one I already have available, which is Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Foundations. The next one that I just finished up is called Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Case Conceptualization, which includes walking through step by step that whole process of formulating your case conceptualization, which influences your diagnosis. And those are going to influence your decision making about what kind of treatment is needed to best help your clients heal and overcome their whatever it is that they're going on, and providing that support to parents. And in the end, that's why we're all doing this. We're all doing this because for most of us, and I've heard this over and over and over again, play therapists, this is not just a job. It's not really even just a profession. For many play therapists, this is a calling. It's a calling to help children heal, which is why we're willing to do the hard work on a day-to-day basis. And so in my mind, in order to get the most benefit, to help the most children heal and their families heal, why not make sure we're doing this case conceptualization effectively and accurately, because it's going to influence the quality of the treatment that we provide in play therapy. So, case conceptualization really ends up resulting in two things. One is an accurate diagnosis, and two, a treatment plan. What's your approach going to be? Being able to communicate that to parents is going to also increase, more often than not always, more often than not, it's going to increase their confidence in your ability to help their child, that you know what's going on, you understand what to do. I like to use the analogy of, if you go to the doctor, and let's say your child is sick and you can't for the life of you figure out what the heck it is. You take your child to the doctor. You want your doctor asking questions. You want your doctor to ask detailed questions because you don't know what to tell them, because you don't know what's going on. I used to make a list of this is me. When my kids were really little, I got tired of going into the doctor and not getting the questions asked, and only to leave there and realize, oh my gosh, it's not that, it's this. In my mind, if I'm taking my kid into the doctor, I want the doctor to ask all the questions so they can figure out what's the problem and prescribe what needs to happen. Well, I kind of think that's the same way as play therapists. If we ask all of the questions and we get into the nitty gritty of the questions early on, we can figure out what's going on. We can communicate that in a way that's effective, and we can come up with a treatment approach that's going to help that child. And that's, in the end, ultimately going to help the whole family. And you're going to know how to support parents. So to me, that all comes down to case conceptualization, which is also resulting in accurate diagnosis as well. So that's the second skill. The third skill that I think is important for this topic is really coming to understand, as a play therapist, you're a specialist. Like, even in the mental health field in general, you're a specialist because you work with children. Most mental health university programs at the master's level, most programs don't specialize in children. They may have a class or two that you could take. That's how it was in my program 30 years ago. But there wasn't really any specialization around it. I was fortunate in my program that there was a specialization at the time. It was only 1 year available. At the time of the specialization, mine was child and family welfare. So I spent like a whole year, because I finished in 2 years. I spent a whole year learning about family therapy, a variety of different types of family therapy. My practicum field experience was family therapy. My supervisor was family therapy. So I feel like I got a lot of that, which was definitely helpful. But most programs don't necessarily have that. Most programs don't necessarily teach you how to work with children specifically, and not often, it's not often play therapy either. So you're a specialist in the mental health community. You're a specialist. You're a child specialist. To the parent, as a play therapist, you're a specialist. You deal with kids on a day-to-day basis. You see lots of things. Your experience, expertise, training is all going to be about kids. So for them, you're a specialist. So here's the thing. A lot of times, if you're new to play therapy and you're just learning, you're not going to feel like a specialist. I totally get that. Totally been there. I felt like a fraud. My imposter syndrome was off the chain when I started 20 years ago in play therapy. But that's where the supervision comes along, that consultation. You get the support that you need to be able to do that, and you get the training, and you will get there. That being said, whether or not you feel like you're a specialist, in the eyes of parents and other mental health professionals, you're a specialist. So if that's the case, really understanding the benefit, and what that can provide to parents and their or guardians if they're not living with their parents, then It's your ability to understand that you have knowledge that's important for this child, for this family, and in the larger mental health community. Even in the play therapy community, we can even have even more specializations within the play therapy community, certain diagnoses that you may specialize in, maybe more specialization in trauma or specialization in autism or specialization in working with diverse populations. These are all, we even specialize even more in the play therapy community. I would say probably my area of expertise in the play therapy community would be more about using a neuroscience and attachment lens and how that gets applied in the play therapy process. So, that being said, the other thing that comes along with being a child specialist and seeing yourself as a child specialist means in mental health means you're likely connected to what we call like adjunct professionals and resources. So, what do I mean by adjunct professionals and resources? Sometime as part of your initial assessment process and your ongoing, what I call detective lens, going into detective mode, finding the clues of what's going on, figuring out why it's going on, is and this is where having knowledge about childhood disorders and mental health problems is definitely a needed skill, is because there it's oftentimes children experiencing mental health issues, there's also the likelihood of another non mental health issue possibly going on. For example, maybe your client has sensory processing problems and they haven't been diagnosed. Well, as a play therapist, you're going to be knowledgeable because you have an understanding of childhood related problems and disorders. You kind of have an idea of at least what to look for. So if you suspect that, then you can provide parents or guardians with information about where they can go and get that further assessed by an occupational therapist. Let's say you're in the play therapy process with your client and you join therapy and or maybe even your initial assessment where you're doing that initial case conceptualization, maybe you're realizing, oh, I think there might be an undiagnosed learning disability here or something going on underneath all of this anxiety or even possibly some undiagnosed ADHD, maybe more of the inattentive type because that's not as easily recognized. So you're going to be able to provide resources to parents. You're going to be able to explain, hey, there's a possibility. Here's what's going on because of X, Y, and Z. You'll be able to spell it out and you'll be able to provide them with the resource where they can go and have that further evaluated. And that in and of itself, being able to have that frontline view, front row seat, so to speak, of what's going on with the child as a specialist, you can help connect parents to other resources that are going to get it. I call them the roots of the problem. So parents identify, hey, this is problematic behavior. Your job through that case conceptualization process and that initial assessment that you do is going to be to figure out what are the roots, like what's underneath this behavior, and having knowledge of the variety of different things it could be so you can go through your differential diagnosis process is going to be really, really helpful for parents and kids. So that is it for today. So I forgot to mention this earlier. So I'm Kathy Spooner. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and registered play therapist supervisor. I've been in the mental health field working with children, adolescents, and families and adults for the last 30 years and specializing in play therapy for at least the last 20 years. So I go live every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific time. And I talk about all things play therapy and expressive arts. I live stream onto LinkedIn, in my YouTube channel, in my Facebook group, which is called Play and Expressive Arts Therapy Playground. So if you're a child and adolescent therapist and you want to use play therapy and expressive arts with your clients, feel free to hop over to my Facebook group and join the group. I share all kinds of nerdy things in there. In addition to, it's easy to find all the replays in there. You do have to answer all the questions. That's something that happens a lot, is there are questions you have to answer in order to be admitted into the group. So those have to be answered. If you don't answer the questions, then you don't get admitted into the group. And it always makes me feel bad. But it is something I've learned. I need to make sure that gets done. And yeah, and I also go live on Instagram every week at 7 a.m. Pacific time. So if you're interested in any of the previous replays in Instagram, I think you can find them on my grid pretty easily. There's also a link in my bio that'll take you over to my website where I have different kinds of resources in there. If you're watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, or in my Facebook group, you can hop over to my website, which is rrhcounseling.com. There's a page, click on the page with free resources. If you want to click on the page about courses, you'll find my new courses that I mentioned earlier. So I have Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Foundations, goes over all the foundational things, how play therapy is different than other expressive arts modalities, kind of the competencies of play therapy, history, which I call the roots of play therapy, all of that good stuff in there, in addition to frequently asked questions when I'm providing supervision and doing trainings, which is, what kind of toys do I need for my playroom and how do I set them up? But the other big one that comes up a lot is, how do I talk to parents about play therapy? How do I explain play therapy to parents? So that's in the foundations course as well. I have a new training that I just released. I'm super excited about, which is part of that Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Excellence series. And the new course that just came out is Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Case Conceptualization. So you can pop over to my website, rrhcounseling.com/courses. You'll find courses on there. I have some other courses there as well. And Play Therapy Academy is a program. It's an online program that I have to provide training and consultation to the next generation of play therapists. So in Play Therapy Academy, we have twice a month, monthly online consultation groups. We do case conceptualization in there. We do case presentations, identifying play therapy themes, how to address difficult situations, working with parents, supporting parents. All of that is in there, in addition to the Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Excellence courses. Those courses are available in Play Therapy Academy. If you don't need the consultation part and you're interested in the courses, you can also get those kind of a la carte, so to speak. Those are available outside of Play Therapy Academy as well. And I just want to do a quick wrap up for today. So just a quick recap. Skill number one that's really important is developing that core competency, understanding childhood related problems and mental health disorders or diagnoses, so that you can accurately understand what's going on with your client. And the way that you do that is having an idea of what you're looking at, so you can do that differential diagnoses process, so to speak, and you know what questions to ask parents or guardians, so you can get more information and kind of figure all of that out. Second skill that's really important for getting really good results in play therapy for kids is having a thorough understanding and building your skills in case conceptualization and that'll help you with an accurate diagnosis for your clients. And then thirdly, really recognizing as play therapists, you are a specialist. You're a specialist in mental health, helping children heal and knowing how to help children heal because you have a full understanding of a variety of childhood disorders and problems so that you can use that information in your case conceptualization process to pinpoint it, what's going on with your clients, why it's happening, and how you can help them. And that also means as a specialist, you're going to understand things that problems that children experience that are not necessarily mental health related and how to recognize the signs that might be going on and connect parents with those resources such as recognizing possible sensory processing, recognizing possible learning problems, possible autism spectrum disorder or ADHD, and really being able to refer for additional testing so that you can really pinpoint what's going on with your clients and get much better treatment outcomes. So if you have found this information helpful, please share it across your social media platforms, like and share it, and I will see you next week. Bye.